Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP. We've got Nick here in tennis with me once again, and we're going to be going through our Money in the Bank reactions from this past weekend. It was a big weekend for Canada. There were a lot of wrestling events on, a lot of shows happening, and we've got the next one here and now. Money in the Bank. Let's talk about everything that happened, rate the matches, and just have an in-depth breakdown of everything that went down. So, first of all, the first match on the card was for the men's Money in the Bank contract. It was the Money in the Bank ladder match, and that features the likes of Jey Uso, Andrade, LA Knight, Chad Gable, Carmelo Hayes, and Drew McIntyre. And let's talk about this match for what it was. So, these 6 men all looking to become Mr. Money in the Bank, 5 men who had never become world champion before, and 1 man who had, Drew McIntyre. And this one was a lot of fun. It really kickstarted the show in the best way possible in terms of really getting the crowd amped up and ready to go, ready for a big night ahead. And it was a really brilliant match. It was full of crazy spots throughout. I just want to point out a couple of highlights here. I want to highlight 2 men in particular. I want to highlight Andrade, and I want to also highlight Carmelo Hayes, because Andrade was absolutely incredible for the opening part of this matchup and sort of like the midway through. He had a really crazy few moments. There was a springboard Spanish fly on Jey Uso onto a ladder, leg drop onto Mello, who was literally hanging from a ladder himself. There was a sunset flip bomb off of a ladder onto another ladder that was on Mello. I mean, just Andrade alone, like his offense that he brought to this one was truly spectacular. And then Mello also, I want to point him in this as well, because he took some serious bumps in this matchup, and he absolutely killed out there. I think everybody really had their own moments throughout here, but I want to really highlight those 2 individually because they really did bring in an extra bit of spice to this matchup, and they had absolutely nailed out there. They really did well for themselves. It wouldn't just be all of that though, because there were other men involved as well. We saw Gable hitting a belly-to-belly on LA Knight onto a ladder over the top rope. You know, that was quite a fun spot. I think I even saw one point Gable German suplexed a ladder. Only Chad Gable could do that, right? Like, it's just German suplexing everything at this point. Even inanimate objects aren't safe from him. But yeah, quite a comical moment there that I found quite interesting, quite good. Drew McIntyre, he would knock Jey off of the ladder with a ladder. He'd literally throw it almost like a javelin style throw, knocking Jey Uso down off that ladder, and then he would make his way up to the ladder and he would grab the contract to become Mr. Money in the Bank. I mean, we did have a feeling this could happen. We did our predictions video last week regarding, what if this does happen? What if Drew does win the contract? Will he cash in later on in the night? Well, we'll talk about maybe other things later on, but let's talk about this match for what it was. And it really was a fun way to get things started. Loads of crazy moments, loads of awesome spots, and, 6 guys who really did go to hell and back just to win the contract. And it was Drew McIntyre that won in the end. How about you, though, Nick? What did you think regarding this one? Did you think it was a great way to kickstart the show? Did you enjoy the matchup despite maybe the winner? I think we both sort of showed a little bit of hesitancy towards Drew winning earlier on. But yeah, what were your thoughts regardless of that outcome?
Yeah, no one and nothing is safe from a Chad Gable suplex. There were, just to avoid repeating anything you said, the entire match was basically a spot fest, which I think in oftentimes in the business can be looked down upon. But I think that's kind of what we've come to expect from these, and this is why I love this PLE, and I love these matches. And this one absolutely delivered in literally every aspect. The one exception you could argue and will argue is that the right man didn't win. And nothing against Drew, we just didn't need it. And the point of this Money in the Bank ladder match is to kind of give an opportunity to a superstar who would otherwise have trouble getting in that spot. Well, Drew's been all in and around that, spot, for over the last year, you could argue years. So it just felt a bit lackluster, and that maybe the right booking decision wasn't made here. But the match itself was incredible, and a huge Andrade fan. I think he's very underrated. Him and Carmelo Hayes, got another feather in their cap for this match here and proved that they belong here. I think both of them could potentially get a big title run. I think they both deserve it. But yeah, this was, in my opinion, this was a perfect Money in the Bank ladder match. It's exactly what you would expect. Leaving at less the ending, I think this is a 10 out of 10 match. And I thought this was a great way to start the show. And obviously putting it here because you have another title match, this evening that could obviously come into play. And as KP said, we'll get into that a little bit later.
Indeed, we will. Lots to talk about on this one. It's going to be quite the journey. But yeah, I think regarding this matchup, you gave it a 10 out of 10 regardless of the outcome. I gave this one a 9 out of 10. I gave it a little bit lower purely because once I really got into the matchup, it sort of ended relatively soon afterwards. I thought it could have been a few minutes longer, maybe like another 5 or so minutes, just to sort of give it a bit more of a chance throughout the for the rest of the competitors. Obviously everybody was involved anyway, but I don't know, I was just really starting to get into it, and then it ended. I was like, oh no, already, really? Like, I don't know if maybe I just got caught up by the time, whatever. Maybe it just went by really fast, like a flash. But yeah, I was loving it, which is obviously testament to how good the match was itself. But I really wanted a few more minutes to sort of get into another mindset sort of thing. But yeah, it was great. It was really, really fun. Really enjoyed it, and it was a great way to kickstart the show. Very, very entertaining. So, in our second match of the show, we have the Intercontinental Championship on the line. Bron Breakker went one-on-one with Sami Zayn. And in the build-up to this one, it would be given sort of hints to Bron Breakker being able to steamroll Sami Zayn. That was essentially how this one went down. Bron Breakker would almost be overlooking Sami, saying he's going to run right through him. And it was going to be, his first championship win on the main roster. Sami Zayn, very proud champion, showing people that he can do it on the bigger stages. He would not be physically threatened by Bron Breakker in the build-up, and he would just sort of he'd get into the head of Bron, I think, towards the end. Bron would actually sort of say he respected him, and that respect goes out the window come the match. So then we go into the matchup itself, and it basically went how you'd expect it to. It was very hard hitting, very crazy offense from Bron Breakker out from the gates. Both men just sort of feeling each other out to begin with, but it quickly changed in intensity. Bron and Sami both picking things up very fast. Obviously, they've both got different elements here. Sami's more of the athletic style, quick pace, off the ropes and whatever. And then you got Bron Breakker, who's just pure power, but he's also fast as well. He's got the speed in him. He's got that dog in him, But it was a wonderful, wonderful encounter between two men who just really wanted the Intercontinental Championship. Sami got the win in the end, and it was almost as if Bron may have underestimated Sami based on the build-up, based on the match itself, and it would actually be maybe what some people are saying a little bit underwhelming with the finish. So it would be a haluva kick in the corner. Obviously, Sami, that's what he does. That's how he wins his matches. It would just be the one finisher. I've been in a couple of conversations regarding this week. A lot of people saying how, he beat him off with one haluva kick. Is that really something that we're doing here? Well, indeed, it is something we're doing here. And honestly, I'm a big fan of that because it makes the finisher look very, very strong. We mentioned this in our NXT Heatwave reactions video about hitting a finisher so many times that it does look a little bit weak. And I think maybe we're in a time now where we're so used to seeing 3, 4, 5 finishers per person in a match that we sort of underestimate the single finisher finish. I think that's sort of it's something you've rarely seen nowadays, but it's quite refreshing in my opinion. Obviously on the PLE stage where the stakes are high, titles are on the line, bragging rights between two men. One finisher is something that I've never been against. I like that. That's your finishing move. That's what you use to get the job done. But yeah, I've got no quarrels on the way this one ended. I don't know if you maybe share the same thoughts there, Nick. Maybe you can have something different to say regarding that one. But I thought this was a good match. I really did enjoy it. I think the right outcome for sure. I didn't think for a minute that Bron was going to beat Sami, and there's no discredit to Bron Breakker. I just think that based on how long he's been on the main roster, I think that it's probably not his time just yet, but I think it's very, very soon. Having said that, I think it is going to be very, very soon. It's just, I think Sami coming off of beating Gunther and anything with Chad Gable, he hasn't actually had that much in terms of like variety since then. So this is obviously a chance to sort of like go into a little bit more variety style thing for him, taking on a couple more people, and then obviously we can talk maybe about a title change going forward from there on. But yeah, what did you think regarding the finish, especially regarding this one? Do you think the one finisher maybe did make Bron look a little weak here, or did you like how it did actually make the haluva kick look very, very strong?
Yeah, I see both sides to the conversation. I think the two biggest issues for me are that one, in an ideal world, one finisher, as duly named, finishes a match. But WWE has not had that standing, and that's not how they operate 95% of the time. Especially on a PLE, I want to mention specifically, because in a weekly match, sometimes that is the case more often than on a PLE. But on a PLE, I don't have the numbers, but I feel like 2 to 3 finishers usually is probably a good average on a PLE. But on the other side of that coin, Sami did just beat Gunther and ended his historical reign as Intercontinental Champion. So I think there is a bit of disrespect being put on his name simply because, he shouldn't be able to beat someone, even though he just beat the most dominant. The second part of that is, I think, Bron being beat. I think if it's anyone else, you beat them with one finisher. Maybe you're like, oh, that was sudden, which I do feel like the match was a little short. That was sudden, but no one else bats an eye is what it is. But because it's Bron, how they've been building him, very much, since he's been on main, he's been an absolute menace to the roster. So much so, and to the fact that he had 2 other people, and Ludwig and Sheamus, who he's still kind of feuding with. And so if Ludwig is out because of the rib injury, that's fine. But Sheamus isn't, and he's very much there. So it felt like, with that being coupled with the fact that how heavily Bron's been booked and in good terms, it just felt like you could have probably put that into play here. And then, even if it's just a 1-second distraction, how they always do. And to let Sami hit his haluva kick, then maybe a second one. Yeah. So I get both sides of it. It just felt like you kind of did make Bron look a little weak there, because that's just it's nothing against Sami. It's just that's not how WWE typically operates, especially on a PLE standpoint. It's hardly ever one finisher. But that being said, as you said, Bron clearly didn't take this as seriously as he should have. And that's the route we're going to have to go now. And I don't know how you right that ship, but I don't think losing to Sami, who again just beat Gunther, historic reign, is necessarily a demotion by any means. I just think it caught people by surprise, and that it was clean one finisher. And so yeah, without repeating myself, I enjoyed the match still. I did feel like it was a bit short, but I don't think it's the last we've seen of these two guys going at it. But yeah, I gave this one a 9 out of 10.
Okay, well, I mean, I wasn't expecting such a high rating from you there, because a 9 out of 10 is remarkable. It was a great match, and I agree that it was a little short. I think that was like my main critique from this one. Looking into the the finish as well, with Bron Breakker taking just the one haluva kick, I don't think it really sort of like hurts him, in my personal opinion. I think it just makes him more vicious going forward. It sort of like gives him a bit of a reality check. Been brought back down to earth. He's arrived at the main roster. He's a big guy. He's pumped. He's ready to go. He's taken on everybody. He's just plowing through them. And I think this is maybe his first, Just like slap on the wrist to say, you know what, slow down a little bit. There are big names here, there are big challenges, and this is just one of the hurdles that you can encounter on your main roster travels. And yeah, I think it was a very, very good match. I give this one an 8 out of 10, so not quite as high as you by a little bit. But I think comparatively speaking to the ladder match, I think I enjoyed that one a lot more. But I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Bron reacts to this. In what way is he going to approach Sami going forward? Are we going to have another match between the two of them? I think I agree with you. It's not that we see from them. But in what capacity are we going to get that going forward? That's going to be the big question. But hey, enough about the Intercontinental Championship match. There were more things that happened through the night. And let's take a break from matches. Let's talk about a surprise return, I guess we can call it, right? A surprise show up on the night. Because Trish Stratus would be the host for Money in the Bank. That'll be announced the day before, just before Friday Night SmackDown would air. And she would just basically just do like a regular hosting job, you know, like just playing to the crowd, whatever. But then she would also say that she's got a special guest. And, you know, it's somebody that she was once a mystery tag team partner for. And it would be none other than the 16-time world champion, John Cena. He would make his way down to the ring, donning some new gear, one that we've not seen before, and he'd look as ready as ever to go. And we've seen him come back at Money in the Bank in the past few years. I think he did it last year. He did it, I think he did it 3 years ago as well. So Cena coming back in these events is no real surprise. What was a surprise, though, is what he had to say. Retirement for Cena has been something that we've speculated for a while, something that we've been thinking about as a possibility for some time now. And Cena would actually reference that here and now. So he would say that he is looking to retire in 2025. But before he does so, he's got a few days that he wants to meet specifically. He wants to have his last Royal Rumble. He wants to have his last Elimination Chamber. And he wants to have his last WrestleMania. But he won't be retiring at WrestleMania in 2025 because he's going to go through the entire calendar year. It's going to be the last year of Cena. He's going to go on a bit of a tour. And it's going to do about 40 dates in total, I think he said. So starting from January all the way through December, you know, it's the last chance to see John Cena in action, which is quite crazy to think about, but this is the reality. It happens, right? But hey, I mean, he seemed in pretty high spirits. He seemed pretty buzzed, pretty hyped about all of this. And it opens up a lot of questions. You know, who could he go up against? What matches could be on the horizon for him? And, you know, who's going to take the opportunity to go up against John Cena? You know, he just said towards the end, he said, you know, if you want a shot, come and get it. You know, like he used to say in his US Open challenges, but you know, you don't have much time left. You got to take the chance now whilst it's still there. So, I mean, Nick, anything else to add regarding this John Cena segment? What are your thoughts on this one? Are you looking forward to the retirement year of John Cena? Who are you looking to see John Cena face in this final run, and maybe even who's going to be his last opponent?
Yeah, I think we could probably do an hour-long video on just the possibilities and speculation of what John Cena could do in his last year. I'm a fan of announcing this and doing it before it's too late. Again, I feel like he's far from the age of it being too late, but we've seen that time and again where wrestlers just don't quite have it. And by all means, this is WWE, this is wrestling. He could still come back after this retirement tour. We've seen that too many times to be fooled. But I like to think John Cena is a man of his word and will stay away once he is officially retired. That being said, being the last time is now. I think I don't think you can go out on a much higher note than kind of dedicating that last year to as a retirement tour. That's great. There's loads of matchups, and you know the inevitable conversation of him taking over Ric Flair's record is certainly one to be had. I personally. If you put me on the spot and I had to pick an opponent for him, I'm not sure I could do it. There are too many possibilities, and I think John Cena, being a man of the business and being one of the most, if not, you know, the most loyal superstar that they've ever had, staying with WWE the entire time, his entire career, which is, very rare in today's world, obviously. I think he'll do the right thing and he'll put someone over, kind of like Kurt Angle did, ironically enough. But yeah, I think I'll do the right thing, and I think I'll put over some talent. But yeah, it'll be exciting to see what he can bring us in his final year.
Yeah, really looking forward to all the possibilities that we could be getting from this retirement tour, because it's quite a really cool way of doing things, actually. Very big fan of how he's gone about this. And yeah, opens up a lot of questions, all the possibilities. Let's just see what happens, right? The last year of Cena is almost upon us. Once 2025 begins, we're officially on the countdown, which is kind of crazy. But hey, what a career he's had. And let's hope for some amazing memories in the last 12 months. Okay, so back to the action. We would go into our next matchup, which would be the World Heavyweight Championship on the line. Seth Rollins will go one-on-one with Damian Priest, and the stipulations would be as follows: if Seth Rollins was to lose to Damian Priest, then he can no longer challenge for Damian Priest's World Heavyweight title going forward. If Damian Priest was to lose to Seth Rollins, obviously he'd lose his title, but also he'd be out of the Judgment Day. So very high stakes all round here from this one. Before we go into other stakes and other conversations, let's talk about the match itself. So I'm just going to try and bypass everything towards the end here, and I'm going to talk about Damian and Seth to begin with. So Damian and Seth, they were having an absolutely tremendous match against one another. Really, really enjoying it. I thought they were bringing out the absolute best in one another. Seth going for moves that had got him injured previously, and sort of looking like he was enjoying it as he was doing it as well. Maybe like a little bit tempting fate there, perhaps, but getting back into the swing of things, which was great to see. Obviously, we'd see them be out of action for a couple of months. Could have been even longer, but he somehow defied the odds there. I'm not sure what went on, really. Guessing we maybe went out of find an answer to that one. But yeah, Damian and Rollins, they were having an absolute brilliant match against one another. Extremely heavy hitting. As I said, bring out best of one another. Tempo was really high into this one. And it was really, really good. Up until a moment where there was a Falcon Arrow that I think Seth was attempting. Damian Priest would reverse it. Seth would reverse the attempt of the reversal into a Falcon Arrow properly, would land it and go for a cover in the middle of the ring. So once he goes for the cover, the referee counts the two and just suddenly stops counting. And then you're sort of just there watching like, well, what's happened there? He didn't kick out, right? I didn't see a kick out. And Seth's visibly confused. He has no idea what's just happened. I think he actually curses at the referee at one point, questioning, what's he doing? Put it that way is quite nice, I suppose. And then, yeah, Damian, I don't know what's happened. Maybe he's knocked out at one point. Maybe he's, not quite there. Doesn't really know where he's at. And, he's lost complete track of the matchup. And, he's just out of it for a couple of moments. Maybe the wrong couple of moments, but maybe that's what happened there. Maybe also it could be to do what happened next after that. Drew McIntyre. He would come out to cash in his Money in the Bank contract during the match, making it a triple threat contest. So perhaps maybe during the pinfall, the music was meant to play. I don't know. Maybe that would distract the referee, made him start counting from there. Who knows? I think they're the only two realistic options as far as I can explain the mishap in the ring. But, okay, talking about what happened afterwards. Drew McIntyre, he's making his way down to the ring. He'd cash in, and that would be official. Triple threat, it's underway. It's, no longer one-on-one contest between Seth Rollins and Damian Priest. It's now got Drew McIntyre in the mix. I'm pretty sure about 20, 30 seconds, if that passes by. And, of course, where Drew McIntyre challenges for a championship, his shadow is going to be right behind him. CM Punk would appear. He would lay waste to Drew McIntyre, and he would basically cost Drew from cashing in his contract successfully. He would beat down Drew with a chair. That would be outside the ring, and then he would get him back in the ring. Damian Priest would be able to take advantage. He would hit the South of Heaven chokeslam, and that would be it. 1, 2, 3. Seth no longer able to challenge for the championship as long as he's champion, which he is. And then obviously Drew McIntyre's cash in that he literally won the right to do so earlier in the night, completely wasted and gone. So there we go. That's the match. Before we get into anything else, just want to pass it over to Nick, because regarding this one, the match itself, Damian and Seth. How were you finding the match before that botch, before the mishap in the middle of the ring, the referee, the confusion, whatever? Who knows exactly what happened? But how were you finding it up until then? Because I was quite enjoying it. I thought it was a good match, had a good flow to it. The two were bringing out the best of one another. But yeah, what were your thoughts up until that particular point?
I don't know how. It's hard to talk about. For me, it's hard to talk about anything else in the match. But before that instant, Seth was clearly bringing out new moves, and a double-edged sword, perhaps, and that's maybe why we were being entertained so much, because we hadn't seen these kind of moves in a while, and then that kind of is, I think, possibly what caused the mishap in the air, and that I'm sure everyone's seen speculation about Damian possibly being concussed. I don't see why else he would have, unless he just missed the count altogether, missed the first count. Still thought it was that was the second. I don't know. Yeah, but the match itself was building well. Unfortunately, no one's ever going to remember the match because the mishap of the 2 count, and then what happened after. Yeah, I think that's all I have on the actual match itself. I guess as a rating, I don't even feel like I can give it a rating, just because it felt like it was cut short, and it wasn't about the match. It was about what happened after the match, and then the match itself was botched in entirety, you could argue. And this is probably another topic we could probably talk for an hour on. But just giving the match a rating, if you exclude the ending, which I feel like is kind of pointless, give it a 6 out of 10, I guess.
I mean, I gave the entire segment a 7 out of 10. I think probably up until everything that happened with the count, and then obviously what followed, I probably would have given it like an 8.5, probably around that sort of area. But yeah, I think what happened next was just it was in my opinion the wrong call. So I mentioned that Drew cashed in his Money in the Bank contract, and this is exactly what happened. Obviously, Punk cost him, but just want to have a bit of discussion about this. So, I mean, this feud, right? Everyone is loving this feud, and I'm no exemption to that. I'm enjoying it myself a hell of a lot as well. Once we get the payout from this one, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, that won't happen until we get a match. Is that going to take place at SummerSlam? Yeah, maybe it could do. Maybe it could take place a little later. It depends when Punk's cleared. But, I mean, we literally just had 3 weeks ago where Punk would cost Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle. So it's fresh in everyone's mind. Drew McIntyre would then demolish CM Punk. He'd lay waste to him. And, that wasn't that long ago. It was only a couple of weeks prior to this event. So, I mean, it's still fresh in everyone's memory. Drew McIntyre, he can't go promo a show without mentioning CM Punk, and rightfully so. The man is literally, costing him every opportunity that he possibly can. So when it came to this cash-in, I just thought that this was a wasted opportunity. I don't think they needed to do this. They could have had Drew McIntyre climbing that ladder like he did at the very end of the matchup in the first contest of the night. And then they could have had CM Punk come in and cost him then. They could have had him put Drew off the ladder. He could have pushed the ladder over. Drew could have landed on a table or something perhaps, or whatever, land on the top ropes and, be out of it just for a brief amount of time where, someone's able to make that climb and win the contract and make an opportunity for themselves. I feel like you've got 5 men who are absolutely desperate for, something. And they've just overlooked all of the possibilities there. And they've gone with Drew just to put an extra bit of, wood on the fire here for this feud. And I don't think it really needed it. It was hot enough as it was. It was, it was burning brightly anyway. They could have elevated this feud by, having Punk cost Drew the contract. That would have been fine. Then you could have had somebody else with the Money in the Bank contract. They could have gone to other opportunities. But yeah, what do you think about it? Do you agree with me on any of that? Do you think that maybe this is actually it was the right move? I don't know. I personally don't see it. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Nick?
I don't really think you can paint a picture to where this was the right booking decision. as you mentioned, there were 5 other men who very much could have used and deserved the briefcase earlier in the night. And as you said, Punk just cost Drew at Clash at the Castle, which was the latest in many, many thwarts to each other. And yeah, it just wasn't needed. The biggest argument I see, is that this feud is so big. Why isn't there a title involved? Because the facts are it doesn't need it. It is big enough without it. So you use that same logic, that same argument for this here, and saying that Drew did not need the briefcase, and also it kind of goes, and this has been mentioned on the weekly shows, that Drew always felt like the Money in the Bank was, he'd become a hypocrite in that he didn't think it was needed and shouldn't be used and that sort of thing. And then he went against that and won it himself. And he did that all so he could waste it in one night. As you said, what would have been the better decision by far is if Punk cost Drew as he's climbing up the ladder and about to grab it. Then you still have another member of the roster that's able to use the briefcase and tell the story over the course of a year if they need it. But yeah, I think this is the first just really big blemish on Triple H's record. I know he's not the only person in charge of all this, but in my head, this is the Papa H era. So this is who I refer to as making a mistake. I think this is the biggest first blemish on his record, and that it just simply wasn't needed and essentially wasted what is my favorite PLE of the year, or one of my favorites, and I love the briefcase, and it just felt like, a missed opportunity. We'll leave it at that, I suppose.
Yeah, not to sound sort of like too overly critical here, but I think this is probably a good moment to sort of like move on from this topic, because I feel like we can probably talk about this for a long, long time. We're both very passionate about this sort of situation. The Money in the Bank is special, and honestly, this devalues it tremendously. So moving on then to something that didn't get devalued tremendously. And that was the women's Money in the Bank contract. They had the ladder match right here, right now. And that was between 6 women who are all looking to make the climb to be Miss Money in the Bank. And we would have Naomi, Zoe Stark, Lara Valkyria, Tiffany Stratton, Chelsea Green, and Io Sky, all looking to make their way to the top of that ladder and grab the contract. And hey, this one was a hell of a lot of fun as well, right? This one was a beauty of a match. It was chaotic from start to finish. These 6 women absolutely put their bodies on the line throughout the entire matchup. It's extremely entertaining, and it delivered on so many levels. Literally non-stop spots throughout, like we mentioned earlier on with the other contract ladder match. And it allowed every single woman to be involved in big moments. Like we would see crazy spots from Io Sky. She hit a Michiniku driver onto Zoe Stark, onto a ladder right at the very end. Sold it like an absolute legend. Literally bent in half on her back. It was just tremendous. Like that spot alone was great. We had, as you can see on the image here on the screen, Chelsea Green flying off a ladder through a couple of tables at ringside. What a bump! One of probably the best table spots I've seen in a very, very long time. Just the way she went through them so cleanly, and it was just executed really, really well, which is great to watch. But yeah, I mean, there were other moments, regardless of these two, that happened throughout the entirety of this matchup. I'd be here forever listening to them. Honestly, it was just that crazy. But the matchup, absolutely wonderful. Tiffany Stratton would be the one to climb to grab the briefcase. She would become Miss Money in the Bank, literally seconds after pushing Chelsea off that ladder onto those tables. And that would be my second choice. So honestly, for me, not really disappointed in this one whatsoever. I think that honestly, if I'm being like super, super, super critical, Chelsea probably deserved it like the most because she could have benefited the most. But absolutely no shade off of Tiffany Stratton there, because, you know, in her own right, she deserves there's a hell of a lot as well. And she's going to be great with that contract. You know, she's going to like dazzle it up. She's going to give it a makeover. She's going to really encapsulate what the Money in the Bank contract really does offer. I have a feeling, and she's going to take a moment when it comes. That's for sure. So yeah, I mean, throw for Tiffany Stratton. Wonderful result for her. You know, all these women were tremendous throughout the entire matchup, and I think honestly this was my matchup of the night as well. Was it your matchup of the night, Nick? Did you agree with me? I've given this one a very, very high record here, but yeah, what about you? What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think if you took the matches for themselves, I think either the men's or the women's Money in the Bank ladder matches were the best of the night. I think simply because of the fact of you don't have that blemish, so to speak, and that, you know, Drew winning the other one, knowing what was to come and what we had kind of thought was going to come, I think kind of puts a blemish on that match. But for the matches themselves, I think both of them were incredible, and just the absolute, you know, definition of what these matches are supposed to be. And they both were done to a very, very high level, in my opinion. Yeah, I think Chelsea or Tiffany, I think, were most people's kind of favorites going into this. And we kind of had both of them there at the last minute. And you know, they had me fooled. I thought Chelsea was winning it, and then forgot about those tables sitting outside. And as soon as Tiffany came up, kind of put them together again and remembered that that was out there. And that spot did not disappoint. I just love the fans reaching out, trying to help, trying to help Chelsea in her demise. But yeah, this was an incredible match, incredible spots. I don't feel like any woman didn't perform well. Um, yeah, everyone came to play, and this was. I'd probably agree with you, and that this was the match of the night over the men's. But I obviously gave this one a 10 out of 10 as well. I just think they just showed what Money in the Bank ladder match is supposed to be, and I think Tiffany winning. I think the only issue I can probably point out, and I think I mentioned in the predictions video, was that her alliance with Nia, if she does end up beating Bailey, which is a big if, obviously. But if that alliance continues and she has this briefcase, I think that could potentially cause some issues, and maybe that's the point. But I think Tiffany is absolutely deserving, and she's done an incredible job since getting called up to main. So yeah, no complaints from me, and you know, now we have to wait another 360 some odd days till the next Money in the Bank. I love this PLE, and I think both of these, the matches that these PLEs are named after, both delivered.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that one. I think that when you look at a Money in the Bank event, this matchup, especially with the result, with everything that happened in between, it's just this is what it's all about, right? Just six competitors really just putting everything on the line and not leaving anything behind, like just purely going for the contract and just absolutely dismantling every single person on their path to do so. And it was just that from start to finish in my book. It was a classic, right? Goes down as a classic. The men's one was wonderful as well. Like, I take absolutely nothing away from the matchup itself. Obviously, we can talk about the finish until the sun comes up. But in terms of the ladder matches, you know, from the bell to basically the finish, you know, they were absolutely tremendous. And, you know, they did a great job. Every single person competing in these matches tonight did absolutely wonderfully well. But I gave this one a 9.5 out of 10. So close to a perfect rating. I think that, like, my only slight criticism is that I think maybe one person deserved it slightly more than Tiff, but hey, no problems with Tiffany winning. I think she's going to do a remarkable job with that contract. Like you said, that whole Nia Jax situation, it's very interesting. How's it going to go down? I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens in the coming months. So we had one more match that would take place that night, and it would be the main event. We would see a 6-man tag team match featuring the Bloodline, and that would be Solo Sikoa, Tongaloa, and it would be Jacob Fatu. They would go up against Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. So, I mean, going into this matchup, I thought it might have been sort of like midway through the card. I didn't think it would actually be the main event. When it was advertised to be the main event, I think earlier on the night, I was thinking, oh, okay, something crazy is going to happen. Something special is going to take place in that matchup. And, we're going to be talking about it for some time to come. Not going to lie, the matchup was very, very good. It did provide a lot of chaos and craziness throughout. And I think especially in the second half of it, once Jacob Fatu was sort of like came in and got involved, then, the action went to ringside a little while after that. I think it really just turned into a big old brawl. And, yeah, the referee getting incapacitated for a couple of moments. Jacob Fatu would unleash havoc towards the end. He would be the deciding factor. And it would end up in Solo Sikoa basically taking advantage of Jacob Fatu's destruction. And he would get the pin on Cody Rhodes. So, I mean, the picture's been painted. It's clear as day that Solo and Cody are going to throw down. They're going to have a championship matchup going forward. That seems to be the direction. I'm sure that's basically what the point of this whole matchup was. I had a feeling we would get maybe a little bit more from this. I thought there might have been some outside interference that could sort of like take place. Maybe a return or something on the lines. By the way, I'm not referring to Roman Reigns. Didn't think that for a second. But maybe someone else could have come on down. Maybe like a Jimmy Uso or someone along the lines of that. But hey, this match was just 3 versus 3. And I enjoyed it for what it was. Honestly, it was a lot of fun. It was great. Would I have put this as the main event? No. Would I have put it as the main event knowing how good the matchup would be? Also, no. But I would have put another match on, maybe Drew against... maybe Damian against Seth, purely for the moment, whether I agree with it or not. That's another option. But I think one of the ladder matches as well, they could have been the main event also. But yeah, I don't know. This one didn't have a main event vibe to it, and I'm guessing it's just because Cody Rhodes is involved. That's why they put him in the main event picture for this one. But yeah, I mean, hey, look, Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline 2.0, that's what we're calling it, right? I mean, they're trying their best to try and sort of like overshadow the original Bloodline. That's hard. That's no easy feat. But I feel like they're trying to make their way there. They're getting reactions from the crowd. Obviously they're absolutely hating this. Roman Reigns is the tribal chief. Paul Heyman's out of picture now. They're doing some very devilish things, and obviously they've got some absolute brutes involved here with Jacob Fatu. He's an absolute beast, and I feel like Solo is sort of like taking the stage as like, the guy that everybody is gonna want to hate. Everyone's gonna want to boo, and I feel like they're doing a good job of it from here on. But was this match enough for you, Nick? Do you think they did enough here to sort of like cement their place as the guys on SmackDown? Obviously, Solo going into the coming weeks, probably going to be challenging Cody Rhodes. That seems to be the clear direction. How are you finding this so far? Was this the right result for you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think this is the right result, and that, as I mentioned on the predictions, if the Bloodline loses here, it kind of would be a couple steps back at least on what they've been doing over the last couple months. But yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I don't think this should have been the main event. Just because it has Cody Rhodes in it and or the Bloodline does not mean it needs to be the main event. I would argue that any other match would have probably been better served as the main event. It felt like a bit bigger than a weekly tag match, 6-man tag match. The 6-man tag match era that we've lived through. It felt a little bigger than that, but I don't know how much of that was simply because of the crowd and the length of the match. It just didn't feel like a moment. And as you said, Priest versus Rollins would have been better served. At least it would have had that lasting effect. Whereas this one, I've forgotten about it kind of already. It didn't provide any significant memories. I mean, it didn't leave us thinking what will happen next. It just felt like, I guess you could say it was like a statement, which is good, I suppose. But yeah, it didn't leave me wanting more. and it didn't really add anything to the feud, really. The I guess it did have a lasting effect. I did mention this um, in the predictions, and that Solo, regardless of exactly how it went down, Solo did pin Cody clean in the middle of the ring. Yeah, clean, maybe clean isn't the right word, but Solo did pin Cody in the middle of the ring on a PLE during a main event. So take that with, however you'd like. That's certainly a statement, I suppose. I didn't think that would ever happen, but it did, and I think Solo is clearly a key player in the main event picture now. I don't think you can argue that. Um, but yeah, I guess we're leading to Solo versus Cody, I guess, for SummerSlam. I don't see where else this could go. But yeah, it just didn't feel like anything really that special to me. And so maybe the only reason there was a main event was because it had Solo pinning Cody. Yeah, I gave this one a 6 out of 10.
I think our first like light and day difference here with the ratings. Yeah, you gave it a 6. I gave it an 8. So quite different in like a general rating there. But I think you made so many great points there. It's just, I don't know, like it just felt a bit flat. Like this was the match to end the night. I just felt that like there was something missing. There could have been something else. There was like an added twist that they forgot to do. I don't know. It like I say, just a weird sort of taste in the mouth. And I feel it could be the theme at the moment. Clash of the Castle. I mean, yeah, sure, a bit of bias being from the UK. That left a sour taste in my mouth at the end of that show. Having been there as well in attendance, wanting Drew to win, that didn't happen. And then obviously with this, it just felt like, there were better matches on the card, as you said. Any other match could have probably been the main event, and it would have merited the place over this one. I don't know. It gave such a strange feeling once it was over. I was just sort of sat there like, oh, that's it. Oh, all right, okay. All right. That's basically all it was for me at the end. I was like, okay, it's such a strange feeling, but hey, that's the way they went. I mean, it is what it is, right? But yeah, I mean, the dominance has been secured, I guess. They got the win over Cody Rhodes. That's the important thing. They want the title back in the Bloodline, and it seems like that's going to be the way forward if they do get their way. Obviously, that match at SummerSlam seems pretty clear to me. Yeah, that's all I really have to say regarding the main event. So in terms of the show itself, I mean, it was billed to be a really good event. Like some surprises along the way. I think Triple H said in the build up to it. I want to know where those surprises were, though. Like, was it literally just Punk costing Drew? Was that the surprise? Because I mean, we saw that a mile off. We were hoping it wouldn't happen. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But yeah, it turned out to be a card full of absolute talent who delivered, but left a sour taste in the mouth. And that's basically what I said a moment ago. Drew winning the men's money back contract, cashing in, only to get screwed again by Punk. Such a waste. God awful decision in my book. How was the main event the main event? Because it sets up Cody and Solo. That seems to be the only reason why. And we knew that was going to happen anyway. So yeah, literally zero surprise throughout the show. Stuff we expected or were disappointed by. The matches were good. They were a lot of fun to watch for the majority, but some questionable calls here. Taking the night for granted made it worse than it should have been, really. I do feel quite bad for the talent because they did their best out there to put on one hell of a show. It's just a shame that the creative minds, they weren't really interested in all that, which is, it's such a damn shame. But yeah, I gave overall, after bashing it that much, the matches were pretty good. So I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. It's just, there was clear daylight to have this one improved in so many ways, and I can't fathom some of those calls, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's hard to separate the good and the bad. I agree. Definitely a bit of a mixed bag, and if the surprise was CM Punk, color 99% of us not surprised. I think it was more so a fear. Don't let this happen again. We've seen it. We know it. We don't want it. But overall, I mean, I gave 2 perfect ratings to the matches that the pay-per-view is named after. So can't call it all bad, but it's certainly a mixed bag. I give that one an 8 out of 10. the highs were high and the lows were low, I guess. Yeah, just as you said, just some questionable booking decisions. But we'll see if they can make sense of them in the next coming weeks. And that's all we can do, right?
Yeah, it is all we can do, really, to be fair. But yeah, like, not sort of like sound like overly critical here, because I think a lot of the show was actually a lot better than maybe we're making it sound like it was. But I think it's just like certain things are overshadowing it, which is like putting a big dampener on it. But yeah, like you said, the ladder matches, they were phenomenal. You know, you gave perfect ratings for them, and I think that's, you know, that's justifiably so. They were phenomenal matches, and I enjoyed a lot of how they went down. Just like, you know, little bits here and there. But I mean, you know, that's what we can say about other shows. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those crazy situations. Like, you have a golden opportunity like this for superstars to really make a career for themselves. Like, you know, have like a completely career altering night, and, you know, like a bad call takes that away from it. But I mean, it is what it is. Tiffany Stratton, she's going to go into this one now with all the momentum. You know, all eyes are off her, really. Everyone's talking about this, that, and the other. Tiffany Stratton's just got a, you know, no stress, no pressure whatsoever. She's just going to be cruising around with her contract. She's going to, you know, making it look all glammed up, and she's going to be having a great time with it. I'm really looking forward to seeing how she does with it. But yeah, the show itself. On to the next one. Let's put it that way, right? SummerSlam is next, so that's going to be a big event coming up. Really excited to see how the weeks take shape, as you mentioned a moment ago, Nick. Be interested to see what happens off the back of this one, and maybe some explanations going forward as well. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning on in. Thank you very much for hearing what we've got to say. If you agree with what we've got to say regarding anything, or if you disagree with anything, let us know in the comments. What are your thoughts on everything that happened? All the debates, all the controversy, all the big decisions. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. And also, if you like the video, then feel free to please like the video, and then subscribe to the channel as well if you are so inclined. We're putting out videos constantly at the moment. A lot of content, a lot of wrestling, so the videos are just going to keep on coming. But thank you very much, guys, for tuning on in. This has been The Push with Nick and KP, and we'll see you all in the next one. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you again soon.